I left the faith and I began to explore Buddhism and Hinduism. I was in a very bad space mentally, so I was very desperate for some kind of mental clarity and balance and stability and healing. So I ended up exploring Buddhism and Hinduism because I knew that they heavily uplifted meditation. So I started practicing meditation and yoga, and through that I received this Kundalini spirit. A lot of people talk about the Kundalini and activating the Kundalini through yoga and things of that nature. And I did receive that Kundalini. It is a spirit. I did receive that spirit. And what happened when I received this spirit is that I felt like I had a sense of enlightenment that had come over me. I felt like I had a sense of peace that came over me, and it also came with a voice. So the same way when you get baptized by the Holy Spirit and you're able to hear and perceive the voice of God, the same thing happened to me when I received this Kundalini spirit. I was able to hear and perceive a voice that I thought it was God, but it really was not. It was the enemy pretending, masquerading, mimicking God's voice. That's why I was in that world for so long. I was very convinced, based upon my spiritual experiences, that I was where I was supposed to be, and that this was God truly revealing himself to me. I ended up in that world for, like I said, 7.5 years, and it did not take me very long. Obviously, the second I went into Buddhism and Hinduism, I'm automatically bowing down to another god, whether I see it that way or not. You know, oftentimes we say, oh, I'm chewing the meat and spitting out the bones. I'm taking from this stuff what I want to, which is really cynicism, right? I'm taking from here, taking from there. I don't necessarily worship the gods, but when you touch and agree with their philosophies and you are partaking in those philosophies, you are showing allegiance to that God. It's just the way that I am a follower of Christ and I do what he has commanded me to do. I am following him, right? That is for him, that shows him my allegiance. He knows who's his by who keeps his commandments, right? So we're able to distinguish who is of God and who's not based upon what we're showing our allegiance to, based upon, and that lies within how we live our life, our day-to-day devotion, right? And so I do have Buddha actually tattooed on my right leg. So I was very heavily involved with all of these different pagan gods. It went from me dabbling into Buddhism to me heavily being immersed in Hinduism, which I also have a Hindu sign on me. And yeah, so I was heavily immersed in that as well, all the way up until the time that I left the occult. I was heavily immersed into serving these different Hindu deities: Kali Ma, Ganesh, Shiva, Vishuddha, Krishna. I was very heavily connected to that. And also something a little more ancient. I'm not going to say her name because this spirit, this demon, has a very, very strong hold over me. I don't give her the power because she had her time, so I don't mention her name. But you see her name in the Bible. I will mention her biblical name, and it's Ishtar. Well, actually, Ashura. Ashura is her name in the Bible. But there's another name that she goes by that I was calling myself, and this is one of the daughters of the Anunnaki. So I got into that stuff, and I have people ask me, like, do you believe in the Anunnaki and this and that? And I'm like, oh, I know about them. I don't believe in them in a sense of, I believe that they created the human race. I used to believe that, but I don't believe that anymore. These are descendants of fallen angels, as they are recorded in the Bible. And when I first stepped away from the faith, I thought the Bible was lying about them and trying to paint them out to be something bad. But no, these really are descendants of fallen angels. And back then, I thought a fallen angel was something good. You know, you see people, and some of y'all probably call yourselves a fallen angel. That's not a good thing. The fallen angels, the reason why they were fallen is because they left their natural habitat in heaven to come down here and mate with the daughters of man. And they created these ungodly offspring, these mixed breeds, hybrid beings that were destroying God's creations. So that's not a good thing. And they are the reason why hell even exists. Hell was not even created for human souls. Hell was created for Satan and the angels that rebelled with him. That's what it's for. And so a fallen angel is not a good thing, honey. So don't be calling yourself that. And if you are calling yourself that, you may very well have a demonic spirit attached to you, speaking through you, saying that. I had these demonic spirits inhabiting me that I had given access to my temple to work through me and operate through me and produce for the kingdom of darkness, because I was up on my platforms teaching these new age practices, tarot, all divination in general, astrology. I was up here teaching all kinds of stuff, energy related and all of that. I was very deep into that. Again, I didn't see these things as a bad thing. In 2019 is when I allowed this spirit, this goddess, have access to me. And it was so real. During this time, I was fasting a lot. I was hollowing out my body. And these spirits, they need a willing vessel to inhabit. So I was being guided by these spirits to make room for them to come in. So I started to fast. I did this fast for the month of February. Funny enough, how February was the month that I began to do this fast and receive these devils. And then the Lord brought me back to him. It's late 3 Februarys later, which is crazy. That's crazy. It's just crazy. But yeah, so I was hollowing my body out to receive these spirits, which I did. And I remember at the end of the fast, I was seeing like visions of the Middle East. I knew it was the Middle East. It was very sandy. This was the land of Ur, which the Bible acknowledges it as the land of Ur, or even Uruk, but the land of Ur, which is actually where Abraham came from. God called Abraham out from amongst his family because his family were of those people. They were pagans. They were worshiping those exact deities. And so this is biblical. We all end up worshiping these same gods that are mentioned in the Bible, when the Lord tells us don't worship them. They are not gods at all. Don't worship them. And it's funny how we end up turning away and doing that very thing. And so I ended up following this God. And the false god, right? And so I did end up receiving that spirit, and it was these confirmations that I was getting through these spiritual experiences, y'all. And the people, they're like, no, this is real, like I'm having experiences, but that doesn't mean that it's God. And that's what gets a lot of people hooked. That's why I was so hooked, because I was having these visions and these very intense spiritual experiences that were confirming that, oh, this is real, and equating real to truth. So yeah, I ended up allowing that spirit to have access to me. And honestly, that's when things got darker and darker. The witchcraft and stuff that I was practicing began to become dark. It started off very lighthearted, and it began to become dark. I was using my own blood and all kind of stuff in those rituals. It was becoming pretty dark. My mindset was not the same that it was. My mindset was becoming dark. It was just a lot going on. I was losing touch of reality slowly but surely. I was beginning to feel schizophrenic. During that time, I was also smoking. I was doing things like shrooms and acid and stuff like that, so that was making it worse. And I would trip and decide to go on these shadow journeys, these underworld spiritual journeys I was taking, and I was just coming back with more and more devils.